All right, so we're going to do the R3 S3 case study for the fitness, and we're looking now at Joe, who's 30 years old, and he's overall healthy, occasional episodes of low back pain, and he feels better. He feels that's controlled with exercise and stretching. He is an active golf and tennis player and does a little bit of weight training a couple times a week and runs 3 to 5K a couple times a week. So just average exerciser. He wants to improve his tennis game and his golf game, and he wants to improve his posture. Although it always makes me giggle when people say that, because I can't imagine a 30-year-old guy really wants to improve his posture. But if he does, great. That's really good. All right, so we've already written up the goals of improving posture, leg alignment. This is all the information from his screening. Improve his shoulder mobility or range of motion. Improve his hamstring flexibility, although remember that a 2 is 90 degrees. So that's actually not a bad score, but we can certainly keep working on that. Increases thoracic mobility into extension, and that's partly why I put up about improving posture, because he was unable to, in the half squat, get out of this position. So we want to make sure he's able to stand up tall. And during the extension test, he wasn't able to go into extension in his thoracic spine. So we know it's not alone poor posture, but we certainly want to work on that. We can work on his hip extensor strength and his hip flexor flexibility, and also in core control, remembering that his core control in the 100 and in the roll-up was pretty good. So it wasn't his flexion work that he was really poor in, it was more how he stabilized during some of the other exercises. So hopefully on things like the prone press-up, as his thoracic mobility improves, his core control will also improve. So we hope that those two things will go simultaneously. Now his goals are to do what? So improve his golf and tennis game. And this is one of those times where the personal goals is really important, because if he didn't tell us that he was a tennis player and wanted to improve his game, we might not include as much rotation into the exercise plan. So this is one of those times where that's very important. So improve tennis and golf and improve posture. All right. And we've written up the beginning sequence for him. So this is a student sequence. And we're going to start on the reformer with footwork, supine arms, and bridging, looking at his lower extremity alignment, looking at how he can mobilize his arms with his trunk, knowing that he didn't do well on the goalpost. He only got a 1 on the goalpost, so that means he wasn't even able to be in this position. So hopefully on the arm work, we're able to start improving his shoulder mobility and his torso, both mobility and alignment, so he could do the goalpost better the next time we test it. Bridging, which is going to help with lengthening through the hip flexors and the quadriceps. The leg spring series is going to work on core control in a neutral position, so that's great for him. It also starts to work on coordination. The supine scapular series on the trap table, where he can be mobilizing the shoulder, but also taking him into as much of an overhead position as he can to work on the elevation and depression. So as he does this, this might be a time where we want to change the height of the bar and move the pins to the very top setting. That way he's not in such a degree of shoulder flexion. It might be a little bit less for him, so that would be a good way to modify the apparatus. Supine stretch and prone press up to work on his thoracic mobility. Book opening, we're just introducing some rotation, so we're going to be able to see how he does with the book opening and give these for his home exercise program, which I think is going to be really beneficial. Breathing on the trap table to coordinate the whole body, as well as working on the shoulder positioning, the hip extensor strength, and getting him to move multiple parts all at the same time. And then standing leg pump on the chair, remembering that he didn't have very good alignment when he was doing the full squat. So now we can positively affect that as he's doing his standing work. Plus, we can make sure that he has good hip stability while he's doing that. He did on the heel raise, but we want to make sure as we're changing his leg alignment that he has that. Okay. All right, so let's go on with his intermediate program. And just to say, we've made sure we had 10 exercises here. We have all of the pieces of apparatus. We have 2 home exercises here. And we've done something from all of the categories. So let's go on to his intermediate program. And you guys start telling me some exercises that you would like, and we can do them in order, or we can just throw them out and reorder them.
So for rotation, I was thinking seated push through with circumduction.
Okay, that would be great for him. So, trap table, push through, and circumduction, abbreviated both of those. And on that, we know that it's okay for him to do that because his hamstring flexibility was pretty good. So that was great. And remember that just because somebody can do all the forward flex stuff, it's still a great opportunity to work on how they manage themselves in terms of their shoulder position. It's very easy to just collapse into that. So it's important to make sure that he has good shoulder placement, which will help him with his golf game and also his tennis game. Great. What else?
Rotation.
The chair swan and adding the rotation. Great. Okay. And how would you set up the chair? Would you have it against the trap table or out in space?
Oh, I was thinking of the one on the floor. With like those things, the split pedal.
Okay.
Maybe working.
Okay.
I guess.
Yeah, I would probably save that just because it's going to bring him into such an extreme amount of shoulder flexion. Even though it's been a while, we've been working on it, and it might be okay. I'd probably save that for his advanced program, and we could choose. I like choosing that one because you can add rotation to it quite easily, which is great. And I do like the one on the trap table with the tower bar, but we don't have rotation with it so easily. We can kind of put our way into its rotation, but just as we teach it, it's just plain. But it still could be a good exercise. So. All right, so that would be swan rotation. So I would put the chair out and not put it against the trap table because, again, we're trying to work on hip extensor strength for him and general core strength. So I would have the chair separate from the table, the normal way. All right, what else would you like to do? So we've looked at rotation for his golf game. We've looked at extension, which is important for him, and he still gets some assistance, which I like, with the chair, even though he has to hold himself. So let's find some other things that we can do. We've addressed shoulder mobility a little bit and hamstring.
Would mermaid in rotation be good too?
Mermaid in rotation would be really good, sure. We could do it on the reformer. We could also do it on the chair. Teaching it first to him on the reformer, then maybe taking him to the chair. So reformer, mermaid. With rotation. Good.
On the trap table, I was thinking thigh stretch because it's good a core control, but also a stretch for the hip flexors and the quadriceps.
Great, I like that. Thigh stretch on the trap table. I like that a lot. It accomplishes a couple of goals. And remember, we can always, if somebody does better than what we think they're going to do, we always have the opportunity to add in the next step, which would be to start to challenge him to go into a little bit of extension. Even if it was just small, we could potentially add that in or fairly soon after teaching this. We'd have to see how he does. All right, thigh stretch. Okay, what else? So ladder barrel bridging.
And a little more hip extension.
Right, he's going to keep working that. Exactly, and it's nice because his knee is bent, so the same benefit you get from bridging on the reformer, you can get that on the ladder barrel. That's a great choice for him, and gravity assisting him into the thoracic extension is a very nice tool. Use gravity to his benefit. That would be great. All right, let's see, what else are we, anything that we're missing we haven't started thinking about yet in terms of the goals. So reformer. And which knee stretch would you like to teach him? Because we think sometimes, oh, well, let's just do all of them. But for somebody who's never done these before, and we haven't done a lot of quadruped work, we need to, again, think of this as a teaching exercise. So which one would be the most beneficial for him? I agree, let's teach it to him in neutral. So moving at the hip, which is the standard exercise. You could also add a little bit of shoulder flexion, which we don't think of in the knee stretch, but why I like to teach it here is that later on you're going to be learning an exercise called down stretch. And down stretch is movement of the carriage in that same similar position. And if you can teach them how to do the plane movement first, then they can go into the position for down stretch. So I'm going to put shoulder up here. Just remember you haven't really learned that yet, but thinking ahead, you'll know that exercise in the future and you'll be able to use that. Okay? Right, so we haven't done any lower extremity integration yet. That will be our first exercises, and we haven't done any upper extremity either. So we need to make sure that we have upper and lower extremity integration for our first two categories. So let's look at that. So let's do trap table and do footwork. Okay, so leg, series, side, the leg spring series on the side, that's good. And that talks to his ability to have good mobility and stability, because in golf and tennis he has to be able to transfer his weight, and especially in tennis as he's running to stop and start, good to start getting into that system. So do we have an upper extremity though, supine?
How about leg pull front?
How about upper extremity supine? Upper extremity integration in supine first.
Can you just like the abdominal series?
Okay, good. Great, okay, now I feel good about that. So we've done kneeling work, we've got upper extremity weight bearing, we've got, this is, for him, probably could be a little bit more toward the end of the session for a little bit more of an integrated feel, for more like getting into full body. Thigh stretch we have, so we're in a kneeling position, we're seated with mermaid, we've got rotation in a couple of different places. So what else do we need to have for our, in thinking about the sequencing? So one of the things we had was the kneeling arm series. And why is the kneeling arm series so good for him? What are we going to be able to do in the advanced program? Yes, so we're gonna teach him the kneeling arm series here, right? We're teaching him thigh stretch, which has the same components of it in the upright body and using the arms, although a different movement. We're going to teach it to him here, and then by the advanced program, he can do some of the pulling the sword or John Travolta and getting some rotation with it and some overhead reach, which is going to be really important. This worries me that he's a tennis player and he can't even get his arms to here, let alone arms straight. That makes me really nervous, because if he's gonna serve, unless he's playing doubles and he never serves, he's got to be able to throw the ball, get all the way back here, and generate force to come through and hit the ball. And if he can't get his arm back here, that makes me very nervous. So I want to make sure that he can get to that at some point. So let's do kneeling arm series. And would you like to face front or back? So we'll face back to start with. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's pick 2 more exercises. Is there any category or goal that we have not addressed yet? So if we've improved his spinal extension mobility, because he could do the prone shoulder flexion to 180 or so degrees, but he couldn't lift. When he was left, because the floor was helping him get into that position. When he was at the wall doing it, he couldn't manage any of it. And maybe that's because his thoracic mobility was so poor into extension and to be upright that he wasn't able to lift his arms. So if we think in terms of that, we're going to be able to improve his thoracic extension and his thoracic posture to where his shoulder joint is able to do a little bit more. It's just by having a slouched posture, if you lift your arm, you don't have the same range of motion as if you come up. All right, so it's often not the shoulder that's the problem, it's the spine. So we can certainly see how he does with that. Yeah. What would you do? So let's put Scarecrow up here. What would you do if he wasn't quite able to do Scarecrow on the mat?
So see if you could maybe lift just the chest, like maybe dart.
Yeah, in a different exercise, we could do dart if he just wasn't able to get this. But what could we do if we wanted him to be in this position, but he couldn't get to being all the way flat? Yeah, put him up on something. So in the studio, you can use a spine corrector or a long box you can lie on top of that, or several mats stacked up together so that his arm is a little bit forward and he might have an easier time with that. So I'm going to put MOD, modify, as needed. Leg pull front, right. And that talks to some of the core control issues he had. But no, he did okay, actually. He did okay with that. I'm thinking of the prone press up. So, right, so that would be good. Okay, so we took a tiny break and we started to put them in order. And we realized that we didn't have a standing exercise. So we needed to add that in, which meant because we had 12 exercises already, we had to bump something or either remove it or move it out to the next plan, the next exercise advanced program. So we decided to take out thigh stretch, and we could have left it in, but I thought it was really important to do the kneeling arm series where he is in a bit of a thigh stretch, just having to kneel at 90 degrees. So we left that in because we wanted also the ability to teach him how to do that so he could do the side work as we talked about. So we're just going to move thigh stretch over to the advanced program. We added in standing hip stretch. The other standing exercise would have been the leg stretch on the ladder barrel. And his leg mobility was actually pretty good except for his quads and his hip flexors. So we thought a better choice to do an active movement where he has to have more core control, organizing his body so his ribs and pelvis are in good alignment and his pelvis is in good alignment too. We thought that was a little bit more important. So we started on the trap table with footwork and leg series on the side. Then we went on to the reformer for supine abdominal series, so that takes care of our supine upper extremity work. We went on to the knee stretch, and then we went to mermaid. And the rationale behind that was we hadn't done a lot of upper extremity work. So if he can be on both arms, he's probably going to have a better chance of getting everything aligned well, learn how to move, and then we can go into the single arm where he can now move over, which is a little harder to find and organize. But we need him to have that because he's going to be one-handed when he's playing, most of the time playing tennis. We need to have unilateral control as well. From there, we went into the kneeling arm series. So he's getting a little bit of mobility here, going into kneeling arm series in tall kneeling, facing the back for tricep work, bicep, and rowing, which is important for him. We then went on to the chair. So now we're working a little more active extension and rotation, starting to get him moving around the spine. So we've added rotation and flexion on the mermaid. Now we're rotating around the spine. And then going up to further that to do push through and circumduction. So now he has to rotate and he has to align his arms well, and so there's a lot more going on there, and that's starting to get toward the end of his program, so we can even think of more integration for especially the circumduction. Okay? From there, we're going to teach him his mat exercises, the scarecrow and leg pull front, so both of those. We're going to modify scarecrow as we need. Okay? So going into cough, do it. So going into scarecrow, we don't know exactly how he's going to need to modify it. So we just put that in there just in case he needs to, we have his body a little bit lifted to have good organization, we can do that, okay? We also talked about dart as a different exercise. So if we needed to totally take out scarecrow, dart would have been a good alternate there. Then we get into the ladder barrel bridging, whereas now his whole body is involved. Again, getting that lovely stretch through the thoracic spine, finishing with his standing hip stretch. Okay, he's ready for his advanced program now. What are the big, hairy goals that we want to do? What are the far out exercises that we're looking into the future to make sure that he can do while he's playing tennis and golf?
I think the prone series on the trap table, like kind of taking scarecrow to another level.
Okay, so the swan on the trap table with the tower, with the tower bar. Mm-hmm. All right, so now we're into advanced. So we've got trap table, swan. Okay.
How about the kneeling stretches with the one that we wanted to do?
Yes, reformer kneeling arm series. Side. And especially something with rotation, right? He's way past the point of doing just the internal and external rotation, much too easy for him. So especially getting into the Travolta and some of the overhead work and possibly even into the side arms with the tricep part. All right, what other things would we like to see him doing?
Maybe being able to control his long spine and maybe starting to go out into a little more hip extension. Just, you know, to get to the back of his legs, make sure they're being connected.
Okay, okay. We could definitely do that. We haven't done anything like that first. I'd probably introduce short spine before long spine. Just because it's a little bit easier, there's a little less load on the body. But in real life, I would want him doing both. That hip extension is important. So let's just put, for the purposes of this, let's just put short spine. Okay. Now, do you want to keep thigh stretch or should we remove thigh stretch? Thigh stretch holding on to the springs on the trap table and kneeling. You have options of just doing the thigh stretch itself and then starting to add thigh stretch and thoracic extension.
I think that's too easy.
Yeah, too easy. I don't know. He's under a lot of, it's a pretty full movement and things that he didn't do very well. It's quite a bit of work. Where is going to be the most, thinking of all of his problems and goals, the things that he wasn't able to do well, what's going to be the most challenging part of the thigh stretch for him?
Hip flexors, eccentrically contracting to hold him, or stretching to hold him.
Right, so that we have to have the length of the hip flexor.
His core control.
But we've done that a little bit. Remember, it wasn't horrible. He was able to hold his foot. He just wasn't able to lift his thigh. So it wasn't horrible. And we've done some kneeling work now. So he's used to having that stretch. So he'll feel a stretch, but what else is going to be the most challenging part for him? I think it's a good exercise.
Going to extension.
Yes. Where is he going to most likely go into extension?
Lower back.
Lumbar spine, exactly. Because if there is just a little bit of tightness here and a little bit not enough core control, he's going to fall back into what he did in his screening, right? So for thigh stretch, the most important part is the core control to be able to extend just his thoracic spine and not extend his lumbar spine. So I think it's a great one for him. I don't think it'd be too easy. I don't think so. You know, I'd love it if it is. That'd be good. If it's, I like it when I give people things and it's too easy for them. We just go on. All right, so thigh stretch. What else?
The swan from the floor, that would be challenging. On the chair?
Swan from the floor, yeah. We've already got swan on the trap table. So we just have to make a decision of which one.
Oh, yeah, I get that.
So we can change it. We can put swan from the floor if you want to have the component of rotation and assistance into shoulder flexion, or we can put him on the trap table for more demand, more thoracic extension need to be able to get that in his arms overhead. Which is going to be easier for him to do? Like, which would you introduce? Which one would you introduce first?
I think the floor.
Might be a little easier.
Yeah. It's like pushing him up with kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
up.
And when you're on the trap table, you're having to get to that point. So I think we can go for either one, but which one gives us the most benefit? Which is
Chair.
with chair. Okay, so I'll just change that.
And if you're on the chair, can we maybe some lateral flexion of the chair?
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I'd like that. Okay, what else?
See the triceps on the chair?
Okay, you want to do it up on top or down on the floor? You want to do the seated tricep or frog? Frog.
Frog is hard.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I think frog would be good for him. What does it hit really strongly in terms of the goals?
Posture.
Yeah, yeah. So he has to have had good thoracic mobility to get to that point, better shoulder alignment. So reverse abdominals with single leg and side bending. I'll just abbreviate that SB. Okay, so the variations for the reverse abdominals. All right, what else do we want to have him doing? Now remember, we're thinking of now these are our middle to end exercises. What are we going to do in the beginning? We need a supine. Done the side lying leg series here. We've done footwork on the reformer, and we did the regular leg series here on the trap table, the supine part. So we haven't done any, he's not done really any feet and straps, yet we're having him do short spine. So if we had some more leeway to put something else in here, we might change to do feet and straps. Yeah, so that might be a note, is to go back to his program here, and maybe, even though the side leg series is really, really good, is maybe put reformer footwork. I mean reformer feet and straps, so that he's had that in his nervous system to go on to short spine. Yeah. Yeah, so what supine? We want to do footwork on the reformer. What other things do we need to include? Pelvic press would be great for full body integration. Yeah. And he should be able, by this point, he should be able to do it. Mm-hmm. Yeah? Okay, so let's do that. Let's do a supine arm series. How many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There. So let's do, I'm just going to put in supine arm series here because he hasn't, as a warm-up for supine upper extremity integration, he hasn't done that yet. And trap table pelvic press.
Could we even go to the bridge to standing?
I would go ahead and do the whole thing, right? Because he's done that before in the thigh stretch, and he's done that position before in the swan. All different orientations, but he's been in a neutral to slightly extended hip and extension, which is where he would be as he stands up into that stand. I think that'd be great for him. And it's going toward standing. So again, toward the end of the to the end of the program.
How would the swan in the lateral barrel be with rotation?
Swan on the ladder barrel would be great. Yeah, I like that, because you can add rotation, and then if you wanted to make it even more functional, you could add something even in his hand, like have him hold not too long of a dowel, but a dowel to mimic the rotation with either the golf club or the tennis racket for a really functional. That would be great. And then we get a ladder barrel exercise, so we've got that part. Now we've got a couple more exercises. We need to do some mat exercises. So ladder barrel, swan, and rotation. Okay, so let's add a couple of mat exercises that are going to really be helpful for him at home. So by far we need to work more extension than flexion, because the flexion exercises he did the tests he did very well. Extension he had more trouble.
Well, maybe like swan 2 now.
Yeah.
Because he has more hip.
Yeah. So let's do swan 1 and 2, But he's done swan several places, so he should be fairly familiar now how to do that. And we can do swan 1 and 2. Okay, and then anything else that would be helpful for him for core control, for lateral hip work for both tennis and golf.
Sidekick?
Yeah. So I like sidekick because he has to manage himself in both directions. Yeah, I do like leg pull as well, but I think sidekick might. It's not as advanced, but I think it's more useful for him to have to manage himself that way. But leg pull or sidekick?
I think sidekick.
Sidekick? Okay. So teaser. And let's see how we do with that. So we'll put it on, and then we'll see if we're missing any, if we're missing anything, which we can just change. This is part of the process. You'll write it down, and you'll think, wow, this looks so great. I love this program. Oh, but I didn't do anything in standing. Ah, darn it. Oh, I didn't have a barrel exercise. And you'll have to go back. And that's part of the process, and why it's so important to do this over and over. And I can't stress enough how important it is to do your homework on a fairly regular, timely basis, because the more you practice this, the more you're used to picking and choosing and right away identifying, oop, I missed something, got to put that in. Or hopefully you get to the point where you don't miss it anymore. You have a process so that you have all of the different criteria met by the end of that. So let's see. So do we have something in every category? We're again missing a little bit of standing.
Well, pelvic press, could that be considered standing?
Pelvic press falls into standing. Yeah, and let's stay with that, and we'll see how the rest of it goes.
How about scooter with alternating arms?
We could put that as an alternate. So maybe we could put that in place of tees. We have 15 now, so I want to keep it at this number. So are there any things that we want to move around a little bit, which is totally fine.
Or maybe take out teaser, and like if we have a ladder barrel exercise, maybe back to forward bend, and we could use that as standing.
Okay. So what other thing could we use for standing? I do kind of like the activity of scooter, and he's done standing hip stretch before. It's a little more active, especially with one of his problems was doing the squat with good leg alignment. So I think I'd put in scooter, and then with the alternating arm work, that's going to really work on his balance, and he gets to do the running, the Polestar running man, not the regular running man. So let's do that. Okay, so we've got a standing. We've got several exercises that fall into full body integration. We've definitely addressed weight bearing. We've definitely addressed the extension. So we've done a lot of that. We've got a couple of things that kind of mimic seated position, especially with the frog facing out. We've got supine upper and lower. I think it looks pretty good in terms of the categories. We've got 15 exercises. We've used a piece of each apparatus. We have 2 home exercises with the mat exercises. So let's put them in order and see how we like it. I do probably, yeah, that's fine. We can do that. 3, 4. Okay. Now from there we're going to get up. Do we want to stay on the reformer, which to me makes sense. We've got reverse abdominals. We've got kneeling arm series. So I think we should just stay on the reformer and do those. So 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so where would you like to go after that? So we've done some kneeling work. We've done upper extremity weight bearing. We've done the kneeling work with rotation to the side. We're going to do scooter last, so that's 15. What do you want to have just before scooter? So the higher level exercises, right, so we've got pelvic press, we've got swan, and especially if we're going into rotation, that's fairly full body. So we've got swan, and this is from the floor. So if we think chair, what we've just last done was kneeling arm series to the side, so some single arm work. You could go down onto the floor and go into extension, but you could also do lateral flexion because you've just done some work in single arm. Now we can go into that same thing in weight bearing. So I would say let's try this and see how this works. And the other thing to say for putting these exercises in order, you can think about it in your head, really important that you actually do it. What does it feel like to do all 10, 12, or 15 exercises in a row? What does it feel like? And how long did it take you to do that? Thinking of not just doing it, but teaching it. So again, how many different complex exercises do you want to have in one program? And you have to then, as you're used to teaching, you'll have that feeling of, this person can absorb more, we can do more complex things. This person can't. We can't do as many complex things. So just keeping that in mind as you're doing it. But when you put these in order, try it. See how it feels. Do you feel properly warmed up? Are you too tired? What happens with that? So if we do lateral flexion next, then we could go into maybe swan from the floor, and then come back up to do frog facing out. And I would probably not put frog and lateral flexion together because they're both pretty strong weight bearing on the wrist. So if somebody gets a little bit fatigued, it might be nice to have something in between there. So we could do swan and then do frog facing out. So we've got our 2 home exercises, our mat exercises to teach, and then pelvic press and swan on the ladder barrel with the rotation component. So we've just done swan, so maybe let's have a break from that and go into the side kick, okay? And we can relate back the side kick shoulder to what we've done with the lateral flexion. So that's a good carry on from that. Where are we? 10, yeah? 10. Okay. We can teach these two close together. I would say stay on the mat and do this. Then you might actually be able to choose something different. I like having the mat exercise the swan because I think it's important for him to keep that mobility and then to maintain the position and be able to rock. Do we feel like there's too many swans in a row here? On the ladder barrel and do back to forward bend.
Oh, yeah.
Because now we are in extension, but we're going to roll down into flexion. So that would be a good match to all the extension work that we've done. Because it might just be a little bit too much. Thigh stretch should come before pelvic press. So let's do, thigh stretch could actually come quite a bit earlier in the program too if you wanted to, although now we're on the trap table, I think it makes sense to stay there. So let's do thigh stretch 12. 13 pelvic press, 14 back to forward bend, or the other way around. I think let's keep these together. And I'd like to find something, I'm still thinking we're a little bit too much extension. I think we could definitely do another trap table exercise, take that out and put in maybe the roll down series, because then he's going to go into rotation, which is also important for his golf and tennis game. I like that. Sorry, thigh stretch, you got booted out. So roll down series, that makes sense with back to forward bend. Those are similar movements. We definitely wanted to have him doing the rotation part, and then finish with the stretch and on with scooter. Okay, good. Happy with the order there? Yeah, so that is our case study for Joe. And again, I recommend that you do these, do the movements and see how it feels.